Hello, thank you for joining me again in our exploration of A Course in Miracles. Today we are at lesson 13 and we'll continue our reading. We're still in chapter 17 of the text. So welcome. I hope you're doing great. And I'm curious as to how the lessons so far have been going for you. So feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to hear. And so just remember, this is just an experiment. We're just playing. The only side effects are miracles. So we begin by clicking on Read A Course in Miracles, clicking on the text, scrolling down on the left-hand side to chapter 17, Forgiveness and the Holy Relationship. And right now we are in section 7, the call for faith. And so let's see what that means for us. Paragraph 1. The substitutes for aspects of the situation are the witnesses to your lack of faith. They demonstrate that you did not believe the situation and the problem were in the same place. The problem was the lack of faith, and it is this you demonstrate when you remove it from its source and place it elsewhere. As a result, you do not see the problem. Had you not lacked faith that it could be solved, the problem would be gone. And the situation would have been meaningful to you because the interference in the way of understanding would have been removed. To remove the problem elsewhere is to keep it, for you remove yourself from it and make it unsolvable. Okay. So first we need to come back to our idea of faith. What is faith? And I would share, which is what I shared in the last video, is that faith is resting in the belief that everything is unfolding exactly as it should be. Everyone is exactly where they should be. All of it's unfolding exactly on time, and nothing is out of order. That is what faith is. And that somehow, whatever is happening in our lives, I agreed to it. Somehow, everything that's happening in our lives is allowed. It's already been allowed. And we know that for no other reason than that it's here. If something's here in our reality, it's because it's already been allowed. Even if the personality and the ego have a different story about it, are kicking and screaming about it, about whatever the situation is, there's a part of our consciousness that agreed to have this experience, that signed up for this experience. The easiest analogy is being an actor who has won the part of a character in a play or in a movie. And so they're given the whole screenplay. They don't just have their part and their words. It's not in a vacuum. They've been given the whole screenplay. They've been given the whole script. So they know the whole story. And maybe there's room for improvisation for your own personal will to have that choose your own adventure. But essentially, it's all being written. And we know this because over many, many years, I've been practicing quantum healing hypnosis. And in that work, we're able to shift our personality's consciousness, to expand it, to then include and have a direct communication with the part of our consciousness that oversees our lives. And so that part knows this story, it knows other stories from other lifetimes, and it also is connected to our original soul essence and soul nature. And this is really what the Course in Miracles is pointing us to in its way. And what's beautiful about this is that it's also reminding us about our part. We have an opportunity here to shift our perception to such a degree that we take 100% responsibility for what unfolds in our lives. And this is really what the last section, and I'm guessing what this section is going to be pointing us to. All right, let's go back to share screen. Paragraph 2. There is no problem in any situation that faith will not solve. There is no shift in any aspect of the problem, but will make solution impossible. For if you shift part of the problem elsewhere, the meaning of the problem must be lost, and the solution to the problem is inherent in its meaning. Is it not possible that all your problems have been solved, but you've removed yourself from the solution? Yet faith must be where something has been done and where you see it done. And so this paragraph and the preceding paragraph are reminding us that the problem, the original problem, is the lack of faith. And the lack of faith is only possible because we have the belief, the convincing one, granted, of separation. And when we are seeing our lives through that lens, that body identified lens, that this reality is all there is, the reality that I'm perceiving through my 5 physical senses is all that is, then we're missing the whole picture. We're not seeing what it's truly for. And so all it's saying is that if the ego looks elsewhere for the solution, which is usually out there, then it's not going to find the solution. And I noticed this in the physical healing journeys. When we experience, quote unquote, something wrong in the body, and so then the mind says, something's wrong, I need to fix it, I need to make it right, this is uncomfortable, I don't like this. And then it rides you out into this fantasy future, and meeting its own demise. The ego correlates its demise with the demise of the body. And maybe rightfully so, because its purpose is to protect the survival of the body. And so what we notice with the physical healing journey is this almost frantic attempt to find a solution. And the solution, the medicine, the miracle may be out there, but it's that fine balance, because that try to energy where we're looking for healing out there can often exacerbate through the validation of the what's wrong by making it more real moment to moment. And so my invitation there, if the situation is one where you're looking for a healing within the context of the body, or in the context of a relationship, or a solution in a project, my invitation is actually to be still and allow yourself to come to neutral. Perhaps join a meditation class or do a guided meditation for the purpose, to set forth the purpose, like we were practicing in the last video, of what it is that you truly want. And what you truly want is to remember the truth that you are a beautiful, unique, magnificent expression of the divine as this. All right, let's go back to the text. Paragraph 3. A situation is a relationship, being the joining of thoughts. If problems are perceived, it's because the thoughts are judged to be in conflict. But if the goal is truth, this is impossible. Some idea of bodies must have entered, for minds cannot attack. The thought of bodies is the sign of faithlessness, for bodies cannot solve anything. It is their intrusion on the relationship, an error in your thoughts about the situation, which then become the jurisdiction for your lack of faith. You will make this error, but be not at all concerned with that. The error doesn't matter. Faithlessness brought to faith will never interfere with truth. But faithlessness used against truth will always destroy faith. If you lack faith, ask that it be restored where it was lost, and seek not to have it made up to you elsewhere, as you have been unjustly deprived of it. So here we're being given specific instructions on at least bringing awareness to where we may have lost our faith, because if we think our physical bodies are the answer, we're mistaken. The physical bodies are inherently neutral. The mammal, the body is neutral. It's animated only through the function that the mind has given it. So the instructions that we've been offered here is that, okay, in a quiet moment, we can at least begin our prayer practice with, may my faith be restored. My eyes and my heart and my mind share true vision. And in the stillness, see what comes from that. Okay, I'm going to go back and share the text. Paragraph 4. Only what you have not given can be lacking in any situation. But remember this, the goal of holiness was set for your relationship and not by you. You did not see it because holiness cannot be seen except through faith. And your relationship was not holy because your faith in your brother was so limited and little. Your faith must grow to meet the goal that has been set. The goal's reality will call this forth, for you will see that peace and faith will not come separately. What situation can you be in without faith and remain faithful to your brother? Okay, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. So let's keep going to paragraph 5. Every situation in which you find yourself is but a means to meet the purpose set for your relationship. See it as something else, and you are faithless. Use not your faithlessness. Let it enter and look upon it calmly, but do not use it. Faithlessness is the servant of illusion and wholly faithful to its master. Use it, and it will carry you straight to illusions. Be tempted not by what it offers you. It interferes not with the goal, but the value of the goal to you. Accept not the illusion of peace it offers, but look upon its offering and recognize it is illusion. And so I'll just say here that the lack of faithfulness is simply the preference in the belief of separation, that we are limited, that we are alone, that we are vulnerable, that we're fragile, and the illusions that the lessons have been pointing to us to, that this world is a violent one, or this world is an ugly one, or this world is a dangerous one, and so on. All right, I'm going back to share our screen for paragraph 6. The goal of illusion is as closely tied to faithlessness as faith to truth. If you lack faith in anyone to fulfill and perfectly his part in any situation dedicated in advance to truth, your dedication is divided. So good. And so you have been faithless to your brother and used your faithlessness against him. No relationship is holy unless its holiness goes with it everywhere. As holiness and faith go hand in hand, so must its faith go everywhere with it. The goal's reality will call forth and accomplish every miracle needed for its fulfillment. Nothing too small or too enormous, too weak or too compelling, but will be gently turned to its use and purpose. The universe will serve it gladly as it serves the universe, but do not interfere. Okay, and again, just remember that the goal is truth. The goal is truth, which is peace. Peace is love. And that it's vital to see the innocence in our fellow brothers and sisters, and to take into consideration moment to moment that no matter how they're showing up in our world, somehow they are appropriately playing their perfect part. And they're playing their perfect part to help us, often through paradox and through contrast, to be ourselves, to seek truth, to turn our faces to God, to know his heart, to share his will, so that we can be our perfect selves here. So again, the goal is truth, which has the appearance of love, unity, connection, clarity, generosity, compassion, and ultimately peace, all of which are strength, actually. And faith is the required course, as you can see. But this really is the path to self-mastery. There are many ways, but Here we're just playing with one. Paragraph 7. The power set in you, in whom the Holy Spirit's goal has been established, is so far beyond your little conception of the infinite that you've no idea how great the strength that goes with you. And you can use this in perfect safety. Yet for all its might, so great it reaches past the stars and to the universe that lies beyond them, your little faithlessness can make it useless if you would use the faithlessness instead. Okay, so we're getting a warning there. Going back to share for paragraph 8. Yet think on this and learn the cause of faithlessness. You think you hold against your brother what he has done to you, but what you really blame him for is what you did to him. It is not his past, but yours you hold against him. And you lack faith in him because of what you were. You are as innocent of what you were as he is. What never was is causeless and is not there to interfere with truth. There is no cause for faithlessness, but there is cause for faith. That cause has entered any situation that shares its purpose. The light of truth shines from the center of the situation and touches everyone to whom the situation's purpose calls. It calls to everyone. There's no situation that does not involve your whole relationship in every aspect and complete in every part. You can leave nothing of yourself outside it and keep the situation wholly, for it shares the purpose of your whole relationship and derives its meaning from it. And I'll just say here, we actually notice that in the past life regression work, because when we access these stories that are of a different time and a different place, we see how those themes carry into an effect or are even setting us up to play this part now, to experience the themes in the story that we're playing now. And so oftentimes we notice that these past hurts and traumas get carried into and projected through this lifetime now into the relationships now. Sometimes one of the questions that we ask, is there anyone from that life that we know in this lifetime now? And oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes there are repeat relationships in a different format. So it's not uncommon that your parent now could have actually been your husband or wife in another situation. You're just changing roles. So what the Course is pointing us to here is that we are only interpreting each other through how we relate to ourselves and through our experiences from the past. And this is what the Course is helping us to clean up and get clarity around. Because who would they be to us if we saw them with brand new eyes? Oftentimes I'll find myself in a conversation where, a dear one is sharing their grievance about a really annoying family member. So it could be a mother-in-law or a sister-in-law. It could be your own parent. And then they'll say, but if you met her, you would love her. When everybody meets them, they love them. And that's great, actually, because even through their own mouths, they're giving themselves a prescription, which is for them to live, actually, because they know that if I met them, it's because I don't have a past story. I'm only meeting them through the truth, the immediacy of that now moment. And so without the past, inevitably, we meet their innocence, and their innocence is endearing. And so that's one of the practices. If we find that our buttons are really pushed by a particular one or within the context of a particular relationship, it's an opportunity to practice seeing them as if for the very first time, as if you'd never seen them before, through the eyes of curiosity, through the eyes of total neutrality. And so being curious about the clothes they chose to wear, the way they're wearing their hair, the expression on their face, the look in their eye, and seeing the whole picture without the past grievances. And this is a miracle, actually, to really adopt this perception. And it creates that shift, that energetic shift, which they can subtly feel. They can subtly feel that. They can start to relax. If you take away all your past grievances and all your past concepts, your ego's demands that they should be and act and say and show up in a certain kind of way, if you let them off the hook, they will feel that space in your aura. It's a freedom that you give them. So maybe you can feel that. And if you're honest about that, you would want that too. You would want that for yourself. You don't want other people thinking that you should be showing up differently to how you do, saying things differently to how you do. You don't want that. Even if you're showing up in a way where you're behaving badly, the way to self-realization is more through another person's open aura, where your being ends up kind of being boomeranged back, and you have that self-realization. And I'm not saying that we can't also give feedback or reflect back other people's quote unquote bad behavior or their illusions. We can. In fact, one of the directions of the Course in Miracles is to not let our brothers and sisters get away with their illusions. But first, we have to do our own work. We can't throw stones in our own glass house, right? All right, coming back to the text. Paragraph 9. Enter each situation with the faith you give your brother, or you are faithless to your own relationship. Your faith will call the others to share your purpose, as the same purpose called forth the faith in you. You'll see the means you once employed to lead you to illusions transformed to means for truth. Truth calls for faith, and faith makes room for truth. When the Holy Spirit changed the purpose of your relationship by exchanging yours for his, the goal he placed there was extended to every situation in which you enter or will ever enter. And every situation was thus made free of the past, which would have made it purposeless. So good. I think it's self-explanatory. So let's continue to paragraph 10. You call for faith because of him who walks with you in every situation. So we're reminded here that we're not alone, that our prayers and our intentions and our hearts are being listened to. I'm going to go back to the text. All right, sorry. I got excited there. I'll go back to the beginning. You call for faith because of him who walks with you in every situation. You are no longer wholly insane and no longer alone, for loneliness in God must be a dream. You, whose relationship shares the Holy Spirit's goal, are set apart from loneliness because the truth has come. Its call for faith is strong. Use not your faithlessness against it, for it calls you to salvation and to peace. Ah, so good. And the text brought up the word loneliness. And so loneliness is one of those illusions. And loneliness, if you're experiencing loneliness, that's how you know it's a tip-off that you lack faith, because it suggests then that you believe in separation, that you believe that it's possible to be alone. And the Course teaches us, and I'm here to remind you, that we're never alone, that our infinite wisdom, that our spirit family, our guides, the Holy Spirit himself is simply a thought away. And our job is to start to build that spiritual discipline, that spiritual muscle, so that it becomes easy and effortless to be in communion in every situation, in every relationship, and to bring him into every relationship, because we're never alone in the relationship. We could say then, if we were to bring forth the idea from the last video, that if the goal is truth and the truth becomes the container for any given situation or for any given relationship, then really we can say that there are three three in the container. There's me, you, and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit there is to remind us of our Holy Spirits and to amplify love through the relationship and through truth. I'm coming back to share the screen. Okay, so from here we're going now to practice our lesson. And so we click on workbook for the students, and we are at lesson 13. I'll have the narrator read lesson 13 for us.
Lesson 13. A meaningless world engenders fear. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has a meaningless world. And Lesson 13. A meaningless world engenders fear. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own impotence and unreality. And on this alone, it is correct. It is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times for not more than a minute or so at most each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way from the preceding ones. With eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. Then open your eyes and look about you slowly, saying, I am looking at a meaningless world. Repeat this statement to yourself as you look about. Then close your eyes and conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear, because I think I am in competition with God. You may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point, and will probably dismiss it as preposterous. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert fear which it may arouse. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement, and try not even to think of it except during the practice periods. That will suffice at present.
All right, it has not given us an instruction for how long to practice, but we'll continue with our minute. So prepare yourself by just bringing your attention to what it feels like to inhabit this body completely. From the top of your head to the tips of your toes, feel the support of the furniture or the floor, whatever is holding you in just the right amount, because it is. Aware of the air as it touches your skin, where your body ends and the outside world begins. Maybe take a nice centering breath here. And we are reminding ourselves a meaningless world engenders fear. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the timer, and I'll guide you through this one. So when you're ready, just let your eyelids rest over your eyes. I'm starting the timer now. Saying to yourself, a meaningless world engenders fear. And now when you're ready, you can open your eyes, look about you slowly, saying to yourself, I am looking at a meaningless world. And so keep repeating to yourself as you look about, I am looking at a meaningless world. Okay, that's our timer. And so let's conclude with saying to yourself, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Okay. And so again, if you have any thoughts or observations from practicing the lesson, you can pop them in the comments. I'm curious to hear what these lessons are like for you. All right, and so now we finish up by going back to the text to continue exploring the principles of miracles, and we are up to number 32. And so this is written from the first person. We can see, I inspire all miracles. And so I is the Holy Spirit, or I being the voice of Jesus. So let's hear this from that point of view. I inspire all miracles, which are really intercessions. They intercede for your holiness and make your perceptions holy. By placing you beyond the physical laws, they raise you into the sphere of celestial order. In this order, you are perfect. Yeah, so we have this false belief. One of our illusions is that we are not perfect, that we are not worthy, that we are not whole, and we are therefore alone. We've done something bad to have been kicked out of the kingdom of heaven. And so then the slew of false illusions that the ego attaches to itself and sees the world through and sees each other through is born. But we're being reminded here that the miracle is simply an effect of our perfection, which transcends the physical realm, because what we truly are is etheric. What we truly are is light, is frequency, is consciousness. Okay, I think that is good for today. Again, I'm going to remind you, I have online offerings at the moment, which is the mindfulness-based meditation class, which is the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. And then we have the meditation and natural healing, where we're going through protocols of gentle light touch, which effectively create the conditions for miracles. And so these protocols are for a specific intention. And both of these classes are at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So while I'm here in Australia, that for me is the following day at 10:30 a.m. Good way to start my day. All right, so you can check the website www.alilacenter.org for the registration links, and I would love to see you. And so until next time, I'll see you soon.